Welcome back to the Liminal Podcast, and this is episode 12, and it's the first in a series on making friends with anxiety that I'm going to have with An Bakkes. But before we get to that, I just want to share a little bit about why I was offline for a couple of months. So I got this full-time team coaching contract from the beginning of the year, and then it suddenly ended after 3 months, and I was thrown back into liminal space. So for the last couple of weeks, I was working on my new website, and I had help from some amazing people. Firstly, my wife, Lucille, she really helped me with writing the content because she's just an artist with words. And then two other graphic design artists, Mike and Steph from Nudge Design, really designed something beautiful. So please go check it out at liminalcoaching.com. And there you can see a bit more about what I do in my coaching practice, working with individuals and teams and leaders. Um, and if you are going through a liminal stage, so you're going through transition, things are uncertain, you feel a bit of lack of clarity and focus, and you would like to get some more of that, some more clarity and focus, and just some creative ideas and support through this time, you can book a free session, a free Skype session. And in that session, we're going to talk a little bit about what is coaching and what you can expect from a coaching process. And then we'll also identify 3 areas that's really important for you where you would like to get some more clarity and focus. And we're going to set a goal or an intention in the most important area for you. And then we're also going to identify some actions that you can take to move closer to that. So that's what you'll get from that free session, and then you can decide if you want to continue the process with me as your coach. But now back to the Liminal Podcast. Welcome to another Liminal Podcast, and today my guest is An Bakkes, and she's a agile business and life coach. And I met her last week. I was assisting on a organization and relationship systems coaching course, and she was one of the participants and very graciously offered me a ride to the train station, and we had such a great conversation, and I decided she would be a great guest on this podcast since she doesn't like the word expert, but she's very knowledgeable about anxiety. She says anxiety is a good friend of hers. And I think when we are in liminal spaces of transformation and change and uncertainty, often there's a lot of anxiety involved. And I don't think we always see it as our friend. But I think there's a lot we can learn from anxiety and from An. So I'm very excited about this podcast because actually we just decided in our conversation just now that we're going to actually do a whole series on anxiety, and this is going to be the introduction. So An, welcome to the podcast, and I'd love to hear your story about how did you get interested in this topic of anxiety.
So firstly, thank you. And I'm sitting smiling. You can't see me, but I'm sitting smiling and I'm loving the introduction. So the reason I'm not so keen on the word expert is because then I'm worried that people will think I have all the answers. And I don't. I just know anxiety really well. And because different things makes different people anxious, there are different answers to different topics.
Ah,
So very knowledgeable and intimately understanding of anxiety. Um, So I have a type A personality and this deep need to achieve. And now, for a long time, I would like to think I've had an external locus of control. My achievements often defined me.
yeah.
And if I didn't achieve, I became anxious. And so anxiety has, in my early life, been, I would say, not such a healthy driver, but the driver nonetheless.
Yeah.
And then I received the gift of cancer. The packaging sucked, but the gift was awesome.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, the packaging wasn't great. It was hard and it was tough and it was scary. Um, I was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma that metastasized when I was 21 weeks pregnant with my son.
Sure.
And I think then the anxiety kicked in because of the massive amount of uncertainty and complexity.
Yeah.
You don't know what to expect. Bless the medical field, they only know so much. They know a
Yeah.
lot, but they only know so much. There's a complexity of keeping your child. What will you do afterwards? What if you don't survive? Is your husband going to raise your child?
Sure.
It's a hectic time, and it is absolutely liminal. That was pretty liminal for us.
Sure. So can you just color that in for me a bit? Like when you say anxiety kicked in, what do you mean? How did you know, oh, this is anxiety, anxiety's kicking in? What did it feel like? What were the feelings and the thoughts that you experienced?
I think it was anxiety on steroids, because I think if you sit in a meeting today, you might feel some of these elements, not all of them. So I think one has to just understand what I'm going to describe now is more on the extreme side than just on the average side.
Yeah, okay.
So um, there's constant adrenaline in your system. There's constant levels of acute awareness and readiness. You're afraid all the time, and we can talk about the difference between fear and anxiety in a moment, but there's this constant level of uneasiness, and the biggest driver for me was, I don't know what's going to happen, and I can't control this.
Sure.
I don't know and I had to wait. I don't know what the test is going to look like. So physically, there was a lot of alertness. My heart pounded constantly. Um, my mouth was dry most of the time. My mind raced. I couldn't stop my mind. I was worried all the time. I couldn't sleep,
Hmm.
and I couldn't eat.
Sure.
I know some people with they're in heightened states of anxiety, they eat a lot, but my manifestation was I couldn't eat. I couldn't
Yeah.
get anything past my throat.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, my mind was racing all the time. I could not keep my mind quiet. Um, yeah, that is, I think, in a nutshell, that is.
Yeah.
And for me specifically, I know not everyone gets this, but I started getting eczema on my hands
Ah,
as
yes.
a physical way of showing me how anxious I was.
So there's a lot of physical manifestations of anxiety.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know some people get migraines. I know other people get severe back pain or
Yeah.
muscle or joint pains. Um, for me, it was the adrenaline was possibly the thing that, when I look back, was that constant overfunctioning, the constant heart palpitations. Yeah, that was the highest thing for me.
Sure. And then what happened next?
So we decided to keep our baby boy, and then he was born at 27 weeks.
Sure.
So for people that don't know, we're supposed to carry 40 weeks,
Yeah.
not 27.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
That's
and
very,
he weighed
very premature.
3 months, yeah, 3 months
Sure.
premature,
Sure.
and he weighed 1,000 grams.
Yo. Can you like answer
Now,
it's like what how big? Like compare is that like as big as an iPhone?
1,000 grams, it's about as big as two butter tubs. And the nurse said to us, put him next to a bottle of wine, because everyone knows how big is a bottle of wine. So
Sure.
he was smaller than a bottle of wine,
Sure. Sure.
smaller
Yeah.
and thinner.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. And
um, and when we speak in our later podcasts, what is really amazing is how the uncertainty and the complexity really stood out for me. The uncertainty in, am I going to survive?
yeah.
Is he going to survive? Is he
Sure.
going to contract cancer?
Sure.
Is he going to be normal?
Yeah.
And then the complexity of having to have this little baby boy that you can cradle him a little, but
Sure.
he has to be in ICU. You can only do so much. His first meal was 1 milliliter of express breast milk through a tube.
Sure.
So what happens is he gains 10 grams one day, he gains 10 grams the next day, he gains 10 grams the third day, and then he has a big nappy, and then he
Yeah.
loses 20 grams.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, the resilience starts getting a whole new different thing. So one of the things that I found very helpful to make anxiety my friend is to always remember that anxiety can also give you hope.
Hmm. How did you realize this?
Um, I realized this the second time around. So my son Luca, I was in ICU for 12 weeks. He came home, and then 18 months later, I felt pregnant again against all medical
Sure.
possibility.
So at this
Um,
stage, just when so he survived, you brought him home. At this stage, what was your anxiety like?
I was terrified
Was it,
because
yeah,
in
was it
hospital,
just getting worse and worse?
it was worse because in hospital you had trained nurses.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
there was there was a whether it was illusion or real, but there was a sense of control and knowledge and
Mm,
care and expertise.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
I'm at home; it's just him and me, and obviously my husband.
yeah,
But there's a question of what do I do? If he stops breathing like he did in hospital.
yeah.
So again, over alertness all the time. I don't know how to express that properly, but your sense of alertness, the touch and smell and the way you interact with the world is on a state of overdrive all the time.
Sure.
And I remember one day he had some medicine he had to take, and because he was so tiny and he battled to swallow, the medicine broke down in little solids, and he choked on one of the little solids,
Yeah,
and he went blue. And
sure.
I remember that was possibly one of the heightened days and I just took him by his feet and I shook him, this little 1.8 kilogram baby.
Sure.
Um, and he choked and he was fine, but
Sure.
I wasn't fine.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
was. So the other thing about anxiety is I think when it's gone, when that deep, intense emotion has been experienced, I was very tired.
Yeah.
There's a matter of emotional drainedness that kicks in.
Yes, yes.
Um, so at home it was interesting, and then the other part that contributed to the anxiety was that I'm a working mom, so I had to
Yeah,
go back to the world of work.
sure.
What was very, very interesting, I mean interesting in the sense of you start observing people at work, and because you are anxious, you're aware of other people's anxiety.
So
And
your
I went back to,
alertness just picked up other people's anxiety.
yeah, when you've got a new phone,
Yeah.
you immediately see other people's
Yeah.
similar new phone.
Yeah, yeah. Or
Or
when you're
if
pregnant, you just see pregnant people around you.
absolutely,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so it's just a different engagement of awareness of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started seeing people around me that are so anxious, and not dysfunctionally anxious, just normal people that are anxious,
Mm,
that come to work, that have to raise their teenagers, that has high functioning jobs,
yeah,
that has to perform, and their anxiety levels went through the roof.
yeah.
You could see it in the way and now I knew the physical symptoms: the diluted eyes, the fidgeting, the dry mouth, the not being able to think under pressure.
Yeah.
And the control freak in me, I am a recovering control freak, designed a model to start dealing with anxiety. And I
Ah,
thought, if I'm going through it, there must be more than one person going through it, and the evidence was there. And then I was pregnant with Emma, and it was like, I know it sounds odd, but it was like a punch to the gut, because I'm sitting with deja vu. I've got this little beautiful life inside me,
yeah.
and the cancer is back.
Sure.
And I remember I was sitting one day feeling quite desperate. That's the best way I can describe it. I was quite desperate. The decisions I had to make was very complex. The uncertainty was overwhelming.
Yeah.
And my little 18-month-old boy came running to me,
Mm.
and he hugged me and he gave me a big, fat, wet kiss. And I realized that he represented hope.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
So we get back to the hope that there is always something that will give you hope. We just sometimes have to look for it.
yeah.
Um, and the moment you invite hope, anxiety is something that can absolutely liberate you.
Hmm.
You can you can hold it dear and say thank you because now I can grow.
Yeah, yeah.
And for the first time, I was introduced to the term post-traumatic growth
Ah, okay.
because we all know about post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
And the choice, you see, anxiety is energy.
Yeah,
Like like any other emotion we experience, anxiety is an energy. And if you
yeah.
take that energy and you apply it to liberate and make healthy decisions.
Hmm.
I have this beautiful nanny, and she's been through this journey with me. She said to me, Annie, don't let this own you. And,
Brilliant. Yeah, yeah,
it is the most beautiful thing. And I was like, that's right.
yeah.
Feel it, be afraid, be anxious, and then invite the hope and the gratitude. Do not let it own you. Make your decisions from a different space.
So anxiety becomes your friend when you invite hope into it.
Yep. When you invite hope and you remember that fear and anxiety is there to teach us that everything's not okay.
Ah,
So anxiety is very helpful the moment, and the skills we need then is just to understand, is it real or is it not?
hmm.
I'll talk to you about a client that I saw this morning. He he went through a retrenchment process. He works for a foreign company in South Africa,
Hmm.
and the bottom line was is he refused to give up his values.
Okay.
Um, and based on that, it was a long process, but the process ended up in him losing his position.
Yeah.
And I think that is where, and the anxiety told him something was wrong. The anxiety told him there's a clash of values here.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah, yeah.
anxiety is extremely helpful that way. Your body is telling you that something is out of balance.
Yes.
And the skill we have to have in our modern day is just to understand what is real and what's not. You know, if your company values and your personal values don't align, your own values are your own values. That's real.
Yeah, yeah.
And your body will tell you if it's misaligned or out of balance. And I think it's harder to be in the world of work now than it was, 50 or 60 years ago. There's just more information available that makes it more different and more difficult. So to get back to that anxiety, it is your body will tell you when something is out of balance. You just have to listen to it.
Yeah. So how do you so does your body tell you when this anxiety is real and when it's not real?
Um, your body will tell you how it feels. So it is real for the
Ah,
body. It is always real for the body.
yes.
What one has to understand is if your heart and your mind is connected.
Yes.
We all, I think, um, stimulated and taught from a very young age to live in our minds and make decisions from our minds.
Hmm.
And from a rational perspective, this is quite interesting because if you look at the brain, the neocortex is where all language and reason and logic resides. But the limbic brain is where all emotions and decisions reside.
Yes. Yes.
So you really have to be aware that your heart and your mind are working for the same goal. Because we often listen to our minds and we just ignore
Yes.
our guts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then our body goes really anxious because you are ignoring the core part of you.
So, okay, so what you're saying is when you feel this in your body, you feel the anxiety in your body,
Hmm.
and then you want your thinking mind, your new cortex wants to control it or wants to fix it or
Well, I've seen a few things. The first thing we do is we try and rationalize it.
Ah, okay, yeah,
And there are some people that perceive anxiety as weak.
yeah,
I'd like to challenge that thinking, because that anxiety that kicks up tells you something is out of balance, and it gives you the opportunity to do something about it.
yeah,
So the first thing we tend to do is rationalize it, or ignore it, numb it out, pretend
yeah,
it doesn't exist, because there is a level of thinking that says it's weak.
yeah,
If you can, the moment it comes up, ask yourself, what is out of balance right now?
ah, yeah,
Am I in a meeting that I feel threatened? Am
yeah,
I in hospital that I feel threatened?
yeah,
Am I in a relationship where I feel marginalized?
yeah,
You, your body has got and as you know, with the work you do, your body has got such an innate intelligence in it.
yes, yes,
It will tell you. And we are beautifully conditioned to ignore our bodies.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so that would be a little bit of unlearning to do, to remember to. So that first rush of adrenaline, that first, oh my goodness, a healthy and helpful question to ask is, what is out of balance now?
yeah, yeah. So before you had this realization, how did you respond to the anxiety that you were feeling? What?
Um, I've been conditioned as a young girl to. I've been a sporty person all my life,
Yeah.
so quite intuitively I started running more and more.
Okay.
And when you start running, the what we call the happy hormone starts kicking in.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you run, you start reflecting and meditating.
Yes.
So I created that own space for me to start thinking about that without realizing that was what I needed.
Yeah. 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 So it's almost like your body already knew what you had to do. Your
Yeah.
body knew
Oh,
that
and
it
then
needed to run.
absolutely. And then I had another very unhealthy way of dealing with it.
Mm.
When I was really afraid, I would have a glass of
Yeah.
wine too many.
Yeah.
So just that I could numb it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I realized how absolutely terrible I felt the next morning.
Yeah.
And because of the cancer, then I started also realizing, what am I putting into my body? So there was a whole conversation like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a very unhealthy way of dealing with it at a point in time as well.
Can you tell me more about what are the unhealthy ways, what you've seen out there and in the research that you've done? What are some of the classic unhealthy ways that people deal with their anxiety?
So I think the one of the most classic ones that is socially acceptable is pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It is so subtle, and it's so normalized that is possibly one of the most unhealthy ways, because you see, when you suppress something, and we know this from the research, you can't selectively suppress or numb.
Yeah.
When you numb fear and anxiety, and grief and pain, you also numb joy and gratitude and a positive outlook on life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the muscle that starts practicing to get hold of your emotions deteriorates. So
Yeah.
you start losing a skill. So I mean, I'm using this one as the most common one because it's the one that everyone accepts and everyone knows about, but it's kind of like that one thing that everyone knows about but doesn't say anything about it.
Yeah.
But we all know it's there.
Yeah.
Um, the other ways that people tend to deal with it that is slightly more visible, um, is anger. It comes out in anger,
Uh,
frustration.
yeah.
Now, also what's unhealthy about this is it's often commonly accepted. Oh well, they're just an angry person. So
Ah.
again, the little red flag is a very subtle red flag. And then the ways that are more, I would like to say, um, more obvious is when people start using the overuse of alcohol. And I'm
Yeah.
saying overuse because it's not always abuse.
Yeah.
The overuse of alcohol, and then sometimes that goes into drugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Overeating.
Yeah.
People start every time they're anxious, because it's such a bodily reaction. They want to put something in their mouth that fills the hole,
Yeah.
or that fills the gap,
Yeah.
or that, and because our body works like it does, um, for a short period of time, and I mean short period, like in 15 minutes or half an hour, there's a feeling of satisfaction, and then the anxiety kicks back in.
Yeah, yeah.
Smoking. When people start smoking 20, 30 cigarettes a day, or
Yeah.
continue doing so, and all these things that are used numbs the nervous system.
Yeah. And basically it's people refusing to make friends with the anxiety and learn from it.
Yeah, because we're afraid of it, because it's unknown, it's uncertain. We
Yeah.
can't give it a name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I saw this beautiful thing that says everything you run away from is in your head. So it comes with you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So so at what point did you consciously okay, can you just share that moment when you actually decided you're gonna turn around and you're gonna make friends with your anxiety? Was there a moment that you can like describe?
It was the 29th of September, 3:55 in the morning. I can tell you where I sat. I can tell you exactly how I
So
felt.
color it in for me. What happened?
Um, because I was afraid all the time. I was terribly anxious. I
Mm,
tried to read every possible article on cancer while pregnant, stage 4,
mm,
metastases, all of those things. And I was sitting alone in the study. I remember it was in Cape Town. I know it was September, but I was cold.
mm.
And I was sitting and I was quite desperate, and I've been crying quite a bit. And there was a part of me that started saying, if this is what's going to be your future for the foreseeable next few months, you can't live like this.
Mm.
What is the hardest thing you can do? And the little sentence that came up was, well, I'll have to look this anxiety in the eye,
Yeah,
because at the moment it is really owning me.
yeah.
And right there, I started researching anxiety. I started researching healthy ways to deal with it. I started journaling. And then I designed the model, because I thought, if I can, as Carl Rogers, he's got something that he says, something most personal is also most universal.
Uh,
I don't think I'm quoting that 100%, but if
yeah,
I'm feeling it, there must be more people that's feeling that.
absolutely. And I think, yeah, yeah, that's so true regarding anxiety,
Yeah.
especially in the world that we live in today.
And then I started practicing it on myself, so that I felt credible enough when I took people through it. And then,
What did you practice?
so the first thing is to find out, what am I judging?
Ah,
Because judgment limits new information to enter the brain.
yes.
So when you judge, the only thing you can see is your judgment.
So it's almost you're resisting new information from coming in. It's a resist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're blocking it. I'm not
Yeah.
going to allow this to come in. I'm
No.
protecting myself from this.
And you've just said a magical word, because we often judge and um, go into resistance because we want to protect.
Yeah.
So I think at this point in time, it's really helpful to say that making friends with anxiety does take a bit of courage, because you have to look at yourself in ways that you didn't think was possible,
Huh. Yeah.
and accept who you are. Stop judging who you are.
Yeah.
And I have a little saying that says, "Please don't judge me. I do it all by myself."
You, you judge yourself enough. You
Yeah,
you
please.
don't need help with
I don't
judgment.
need help from my friends where that's concerned.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I found the more attached. So when I started going through this process, two things. The awareness came in that the things that I'm most attached to are the things that carries the most anxiety in my life.
Mm.
So in this case, the thing I was most attached to is that my son would grow up without a mom.
Ah,
The thing that terrifies me most, when I think about it, my body goes into, the pins and needles.
yeah.
Um, and I started journaling death, and death was just numb. And
Yeah.
I started thinking, oh, my husband will have to do this on his own. And yeah, it wasn't a great feeling. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks, you know. And I was like, oh my goodness, this little boy will have to go into the world without a mom.
Yeah.
I was terrified. I started sobbing.
Yeah.
You know that pain in your chest that is an emotional pain, but it's a physical pain.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I went like, all right, okay. So I found the thing that I'm most attached to, and and that also informed me on why I was having certain, and you know, I still have that fear,
Yeah.
but just being aware of what it is made such a shift. It made such a shift that when I could acknowledge that,
Yeah.
and it was real for me, it is still real for me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, just check the validity of it. It is still real.
Yeah.
Um, my son is 7, and I remember the first day he went to um, grade R, you know, pre-primary. He
Yeah.
was this little boy with this big backpack on his back,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Bye bye, mama," and he was just fine. And I
Yeah.
went back and I sat in my car and I started crying. But you know that
Mm.
ugly cry, not the controlled tears down the cheeks, that
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
really ugly
The one,
sobbing,
yeah, and lots of fluids coming out of your eyes and nose and
nose and everywhere.
yeah.
And it just there and then I had this massive realization that the thing that I was most afraid of didn't happen.
Hmm.
My son
Wow.
is going to school with a mom.
Sure.
And again, hope.
Yeah.
Hope. I was flooded with hope to the point that I I had to speak to a client and say to him, I'm going to be a little late because I just couldn't pull myself together.
Yeah. 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 Sure. Wow. And un. I think we're gonna end this podcast here, but I look forward to many more. We're gonna explore this topic further. But thank you for sharing your story with so much realness.
I just want to express my gratitude that we can create this together, that through my story and through the work that you do, we can touch other people and may they learn from this. And even if it's just one insight,
Hmm.
may it make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And what are some topics around this theme that people can look forward to in future podcasts?
The first one is how judgment causes us to be more anxious
Hmm.
because judgment makes something or someone wrong.
Yeah.
Um, the other topic is love. And we're not talking romantic love, we're talking about finding the one space of truth between you and me. And
I love
then
that. I love that.
and then the other topic that is really helpful to explore is what gratitude does to the brain when you're anxious, because fear and gratitude battle to exist at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. All right. I'm looking forward. So, yeah, stay tuned, and I'm gonna try and have the next one ready by next week.
I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Okay, ciao.
Alrighty. Bye bye.